actually being H.C. Andersen's version. Let's start. Once upon a time, far out into the ocean, where the water is deep blue, lives the Sea King in his magnificent kingdom. The Sea Queen passed away a long time ago, and the king's mother looked after his beautiful daughters. There were 6 beautiful children, but the youngest was the prettiest and purest of them all. The princesses all had their own garden decorated with flowers and objects they found from shipwrecks. The youngest princess' garden was different from her sister's. All it has was a marble statue of a handsome boy. The youngest princess yearned to see the land above the sea, and her grandmother promised that when she turned 15, she will have permission to rise up the sea and watch the land above. Each year, one of their sisters would turn 15 and rise to the surface of the ocean. As the year passed, each sister had different stories to tell. The eldest loved the moonlight and gazing at the twinkling lights of the town. The second sister loved the sunset, and the third sisters found a troop of human children playing around in the water. The fourth sister watched the ships from afar, and the fifth sister saw them sail through lightning. The youngest sister listened in awe to each story, and the day came when she finally turned 15. She rose lightly as a bubble to the surface of the water and saw a large ship sailing along the calm sea. The little mermaid swam closer through the window panes. There was a handsome young prince who was rejoicing his birthday. The little mermaid could not take her eye off the beautiful prince. Suddenly, heavy clouds darkened the sky, and a dreadful storm sent the great ship flying among the sea enraged. The ship broke, and the prince sank into the waves. The little mermaid knew he could not live in water, so she dove into the water and saved him. In the morning, the little mermaid found a bay and swam the prince there. She then swam farther from the shore and watched to see what would happen. A young girl who happened to be walking found the prince and soon woke up and smiled at the young girl. The prince, however, did not see the little mermaid. When the little mermaid went back to the Sea Kingdom, she could not forget about the prince. She found out from a friend where the prince's palace was, and from the watch she would often swim near the shore to his palace and watch the young prince. The little mermaid grew more and more fond of the world about, and she asked her grandmother if humans die like mermaids. Her grandmother told her that humans die much earlier than mermaids, but they had an immortal soul which lives forever, whereas mermaids just turn into foam and become nothing. The little mermaid felt sad that mermaids could not have an immortal soul, and she wished so hard that she could have one. Unable to stand her desire any longer, the little mermaid visited the sea witch. The sea witch promised to give her a pair of legs that she could live with humans. The sea witch said that every little time the little mermaid walked with her new pair of legs, it would feel like knives piercing through her body. The sea witch also warned that in order for the little mermaid to obtain an immortal soul, she must gain the love of the prince. If the prince does not fall in love with her, then she will turn into foam the day of his wedding to another. In return for the sea witch magic, the sea witch took the little mermaid's voice. The little mermaid swam to the shore and drank the magic potion. She felt a sharp pain and fainted. When she woke up, she saw that she had a pair of pretty legs just before her with the prince. The prince asked her where she was from, but she could not reply. The prince thought she was very beautiful and took her to his palace, where she was dressed in a page dress. The prince said that the little mermaid should remain with him always, and she was allowed to sleep outside his door on a velvet cushion. The little mermaid followed the prince almost everywhere. She rode with him on his horseback and accompanied him into the sweet sentence woods. One day the prince really saw when he woke up after this ship accident. He believed it was the girl that saved him. This made the little mermaid sad because the prince did not know that his true savior was her. The next morning they arrived at the kingdom. The princess appeared, and the little mermaid saw that she was very beautiful. The prince cried, "It was you, the one that saved my life when I lay dead on the beach," and he folded his blushing bride in his arms. The church bell rang, and the festive music played as the bride and the bridegroom went on board the ship. The little mermaid knew this would be the last time she would spend as a human before she turned into nothing but foam on the sea. She would never gain an immortal soul. During the celebrations, after the wedding, the little mermaid danced very gracefully. She smiled and laughed with the others, as she knew that this was the night that she would spend, the last night in the human's world. At midnight she wandered on the edge of the vessel, and saw her sister waving at her mournfully. They had cut off their hair and given it to the sea, which, in exchange for the little mermaid to have a chance to live, they gave the little mermaid a knife and said that if she plunged the knife into the prince's heart before the sunrise, then she could turn back into a mermaid and live the rest of her life bountifully. The little mermaid looked at the knife, and she whirled it into the prince's tent. She could not bear to kill the prince, so instead she tossed the knife away. As she saw the first ray of sunrise, she threw herself into the ocean. Instead of feeling her body turn into foam, she felt herself rising higher and higher into the sky. She heard ethereal voices around her. "We are the daughters among the air. Although we do not pass an immortal soul, we do fly to countries and spread health and happiness. Once we have done as much good as we can for 300 years, we receive an immortal soul. You have been so kind and tried with your whole heart by your good deeds, and will now join us in our journey." The little mermaid was happy beyond years as she lifted her glorified eyes towards the sun. She saw the prince and his beautiful bride look sorrowfully